Hi, I'm Mel, and this is Miniature Warriors. Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today sees us pushing on with our Longstreet campaign. It is now November 1864. I have 2 players aside, and we are in Tennessee. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the game.
General Hood has managed to place elements of the Army of Tennessee in a position to cut the lines of communications of the Federals. The rebel players, as part of Cheatham's corps, on the late afternoon of November 29, 1864, must capture the Columbia Pike along which the Federal troops have been retreating. Here we see Brigadier Heath's rebels, advancing westwards towards the Yankee division of Major General Hislop, which is strung out along the Columbia Pike, marching northwards. On the rebel right is Brigadier Kim's division. The center of the field is dominated by the high ground, between McCutcheon's Creek and the township of Spring Hill. With the afternoon already getting late, Brigadier Kim, the senior rebel commander on the field, ordered both southern divisions forwards. The rear of Hislop's Federal division was comprised of his strung-out batteries that promptly unlimbered and formed a gun line. These batteries quickly came into action, and commenced throwing both shot and shell into Brigadier Heath's hastily approaching infantry. In response, Heath ordered his supporting artillery to unlimber and commence counter-battery fire. The rebel gunners worked their pieces with a ferocity seldom seen, managing to silence several Federal guns as well as smashing several caisson. At the northern end of the field, Brigadier Kim's troops advanced at the double, across the intervening field, making headlong for Hislop's infantry, that were in the van of his division. Most of the Union regiments executed a right turn forming a hasty battle line, just to the east of the Spring Hill Township. Hislop at this point sent a courier galloping back down the Columbia Pike, ordering Brigadier Perrot's division to close up on the rear of the corps as soon as possible. But a gap had opened up between the corps' 2 divisions, and this was the point that Heath was angling his attack directly for. Hislop's divisional artillery were holding this gap, and were desperately looking for the lead regiments of Perrot's division to appear to their south. As this fight was occurring, Brigadier Kim's rebel infantry was massing against the van of the Yankee force. The situation for the Federals was now looking rather grim. Hislop's very lead regiment, the 6th United States Volunteers, was already north of the field, when the maelstrom broke to their rear. Colonel Willard P. Maroney quickly ordered an about-turn and double his troops back along the Columbia Pike. At the same moment, at the southern end of the field, just as Heath's rebel infantry were massing to assault the Federal gun line, Perrot's lead regiments crested the slight rise that the Columbia Pike climbed. Perrot's regiments formed line to their right, in the lee of a clump of woods that concealed their presence. The commanding officers of these regiments pushed their skirmishers out, who engaged the 17th Virginia Cavalry Battalion, who had dismounted on the far side of the wood, formed a firing line and were probing forward, searching for the enemy. Heath, with his left flank engaged against the lead regiments of Perrot's division, quickly sent his right regiments into a close assault against the Federal batteries. With a chilling rebel yell that cut through the smoke-laden, late afternoon air, the Southerners surged forward. Just as they reached the muzzles of the guns, they belched canister shot that tore through the leading ranks of the assaulting infantry. The blue-coated gunners who had worked their pieces so well, now broke and skedaddled to the rear, leaving the tattered remnants of their battery equipment on the field. Back at the northern end of the field, Brigadier Hislop sent the 101st New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment forward. The regiment, gallantly led by Colonel Hubert Smith, with the colors in the van, advanced. The rebel musketry increased as the intervening distance reduced. A grinding firefight now developed. Volley after volley being delivered, with murderous effect, as the 2 firing lines stood toe-to-toe. Both commanders sought to reinforce the combat, with Brigadier Kim maneuvering his regiments deftly, including the unlimbering of the 2nd North Carolina Battery supporting the rebel infantry's exposed flank. Brigadier Kim, realizing that he had an opportunity to destroy the isolated 101st New York, ordered the charge. As the rebel yell went up, the gray-clad Southerners swarmed forward. At first the Yankees held their ground. Then as more and more rebel regiments added their weight of numbers to the fight, Colonel Hubert Smith was struck by a minie-ball and the New Yorkers wavered, and then retired 100 paces to their rear where they rallied. Perrot's division, back on the Columbia Pike, was struggling to deploy. The ferocity of Heath's attack against the Union gun line was limiting Perrot's ability to bring his regiments into action. The confusion behind the Smallwood continued to worsen as the 47th Virginia, that had captured the Federal battery, wheeled to their left and started volleying into the lead regiments of the Federal column. The carnage was horrendous as the Green recruits attempted to deploy. Back to the east of Spring Hill, Hislop sent crashing forward the remainder of his New York Brigade regiments, into the victorious rebels. A brutal contest between blue and gray seesawed back and forth in the late afternoon sun. As the two battle lines fought it out, the 18th Virginia, using the stream on their right to protect their flank, pushed forward starting to turn the engaged Yankee position. Brigadier Kim's left-hand regiments of those engaged, recoiled rearward out of the melee. But under the veteran command of his regimental commanders, the units quickly rallied and counterattacked, hurtling themselves forward. And, with a determined thrust, the rebel regiments sent the center Federal regiment rearwards. The Union battle line was wavering. Hislop's right-hand regiment now found itself in extreme danger. The Virginians on the far side of the stream, having wheeled to their right, started to pour accurate fire into the enfiladed Yankee ranks. Volley after close-range volley smashed into their exposed flank. Then the Southern center regiments advanced. The Federal regiment now found itself isolated and taking heavy casualties. At the far end of the battlefield, Heath's division was maneuvering for the kill. Perrot's troops were struggling to find the room to deploy behind the wood. With the troops of Hislop's lead division wavering under Kim's attack and Heath pinning in place of Perrot, the Federal morale collapsed. The rebels had successfully cut the Columbia Pike and many of the Yankees threw their rifled muskets away and surrendered. The day belonged to the Graybacks.
A great game, Confederate victory, Union defeat, very entertaining. There's only a couple of campaign games left before we do the point tally. Players are starting to really try and get those epic points for their personal fame. Anyway, I hope you'll join me again to finish off the campaign. Cheers.